Thought about what happens when systems just break?
Mm.
I mean, really break, even ones designed perfectly, built for balance, for repair.
hmm
What if they hit a wall?
And the fix isn't inside the system itself.
Exactly. What then? Okay, let's get into this. That's really the big question we're tackling today. We're doing a deep dive into the idea that powerful systems, even ancient ones like the Levitical system, have built-in limits, maybe even intentional limits.
hmm
And we'll explore how, major human failures can push past those limits and actually call for something totally unexpected.
Something like grace.
Precisely grace. All our thinking today comes from Grace Beyond the Covenant's Breaking Point, Chapter 5, which has the Spanish title, Cuando el Pacto se quiebra, la gracia más allá del ritual.
Which translates to when the covenant breaks, grace beyond the ritual.
Right. And our goal, our mission here, is to really pull out this key idea,
hmm
why some problems just can't be fixed from the inside, and how sometimes the only way forward comes from somewhere else entirely, a source outside the system.
Offering a path you couldn't even imagine before.
Okay, so to really get this idea of limits, the source takes us way back, thousands of years, to the Levitical system.
Yeah, quite a system.
It's described as, well, incredibly ingenious, almost divinely designed for things like daily purification, restitution.
Keeping things in balance.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds less like just a list of rules and more like a living thing, With these strong internal ways to fix things, heal daily damage, clean up impurities.
It really does. And if you look at the bigger picture, that structure, its integrity, meant it was really robust, built to handle a lot.
But not everything.
But, and this is the crucial part, it wasn't infinite. It was designed perfectly for the day-to-day stuff, the imbalances, the internal issues. But it wasn't built for what the source calls, pretty strikingly, structural annihilation.
Structural annihilation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Think of it maybe like a really good computer firewall. It's great at stopping the usual threats, quarantining dodgy files, patching things up.
Okay, yeah.
But if the central servers, the core, get wiped out from the inside, the firewall can't rebuild the whole network. That's beyond its scope. That's its limit, maybe even an intentional one.
That firewall analogy really brings it home. A system built for certain kinds of problems, but not like total internal collapse.
Exactly.
It makes you think about other systems, doesn't it? Financial ones, maybe even relationships. We sometimes assume they can just fix themselves forever.
We do.
And the source gives us this really potent human example of that limit being completely shattered. King David,
Ah, David.
his sin with Bathsheba, and then arranging Uriah's murder. What was it about that? How was it so different from the daily wounds the system was designed for?
That's the key distinction the source makes. David's actions weren't just a slip-up. They shattered the covenant at its core.
So how did the core?
It wasn't just bending a rule, it was breaking the very foundation of his relationship with God,
Mm.
violating commandments that were the bedrock. Well, by doing that, David basically put himself completely outside the established limits of the system.
So he wasn't just like a faulty component
Yeah.
anymore.
It's like he broke the machine's fundamental operating principles. The system, the Levitical system, just wasn't equipped to repair a breach like that. It was too deep.
And it sounds like David himself maybe agonizingly realized this, that the system couldn't fix what he'd done. You see it so clearly in Psalm 51, right? When he says, "For you do not desire sacrifice, or I would give it. You do not delight in burnt offerings."
Such powerful words.
He just knew, intuitively maybe, that no amount of ritual, no offering the system laid out could possibly mend this. The tools just weren't right for the job anymore.
And what's really striking there is how deep his understanding was. He saw the problem was too deep for the tools the system offered. He got that the very basis for connecting with God through those rituals, for joyful worship, for bringing burnt offerings, that was broken.
Because of what he did.
Because of his actions, yes. The internal repair mechanisms, they just didn't apply to him anymore. He'd undermined the whole foundation they stood on.
Wow. Imagine realizing that
Mm-hmm.
the divine tools you were given just stopped working for you because of what you'd done.
It's a profound spiritual crisis, isn't
Mm.
it? Being forced to look beyond the system, beyond yourself even. That tension itself almost points somewhere else.
Okay, so this is the turning point then.
Mm.
If the system is broken for David, if he's outside its ability to repair,
Mm.
where does the solution come from? It feels like a dead end.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The source is crystal clear. For David, restoration could only come from one place.
Which is,
Direct divine intervention. Mercy. what we
Uh,
call grace.
Grace. Okay.
And this grace, as it's described, isn't just like a patch for the old system. It's called an additional dimension,
Hmm.
a kind of bridge that functions completely outside the standard rules of the Levitical system.
So not part of the original blueprint at all.
Not at all. It's like a different operating system entirely. And crucially, David couldn't trigger it. He couldn't do a ritual, couldn't earn it. It had to be an unmerited, sovereign act of God coming from the outside.
Inherited from the outside.
Its whole purpose was to fix what was, from a human perspective and even from the system's perspective, irreparable. It offered a way back that the Levitical system itself could not pave. It acted despite the broken system and even despite David himself.
An external solution for an internal impossibility.
Yeah,
That's quite something.
it is.
And the source really highlights this, you said, by contrasting David with Bathsheba, how the system related differently to each of them.
Yes, that contrast is incredibly revealing. It really shows the system's specific design and its limits. Look at Bathsheba.
Okay.
She was the victim. The source stresses she had not broken the covenant. Yes, she experienced ritual impurity because she was forced into that situation, contaminated against her will, but her actions weren't voluntary.
So she was still considered within the system's rules.
Exactly. She was still within the limits of the system, and the system had a way to deal with that. There was a purification offering, the Jatah offering.
The one for unintentional issues.
Right. That could purify the altar from the contamination caused by this effectively unintentional sin from the system's perspective regarding contamination. It restored her ritual status. It allowed her back to the altar for accepted, joyful worship. Her situation, as awful as it was personally, was precisely the type of alteration the system was designed to handle.
Okay, so the system worked for her, even in that terrible circumstance.
Yeah.
But David,
As the perpetrator, was completely different. He hadn't just caused contamination. He had, as the source puts it, demolished the covenant's boundaries.
demolished them.
His break was so deep, so fundamental, that the standard rituals, like the Jatah for unintentional sin, or even the Asham, the guilt offering used for certain reparations, they were completely insufficient, hopelessly inadequate,
Why?
because his actions went far beyond what those rituals were intended to address. His was a willful foundational violation. The system's response mechanisms just weren't scaled for that.
So wrapping this up then, the Levitical system, as amazing and complex as it was, it had clear lines drawn. Boundaries.
Exactly. It means that while it was this ingenious design, it had these intentional limits, built for the everyday, the daily impurities, the unintentional wrongs, but not for, the annihilation of its own foundation.
It could heal scrapes and cuts, maybe, but not bring the whole thing back from the dead if it was destroyed from within.
That's a good way to put it. It could heal wounds, but it could not resurrect the basis of the relationship once it had been destroyed from within. And importantly, this limitation wasn't seen as a flaw, a design defect.
No.
No. The source suggests it was a deliberate feature. It created a kind of theological tension, a deep spiritual question mark that pointed towards something else, towards the inescapable need for a new and superior solution, something beyond the system itself.
Wow. What an incredible exploration. Understanding that some problems, some breaks are just too big for the systems we have, even the best ones. Too big for our own efforts.
And that sometimes the only real solution has to come from outside, an unmerited external intervention.
Right. It definitely leaves you thinking. And the source poses that question, doesn't it? A really important one for all of us.
It does. Where do we seek restoration when our best systems and efforts simply are not enough?
That is a profound thought to sit with. Maybe think about that in your own life, your own understanding. Where do solutions come from when things seem truly broken beyond repair? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.